feel free to keep eating, but I wanted to introduce Gene formally. He's the founder of Z-Winning Mindset and holds a master's degree in exercise science, sports psychology, clinical psychology. He's written books on all of this, which are outside and welcome for everyone to take. He'll be speaking on the total package, spirit, mind, and body. So thank you, Gene.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. So myself, both of my younger brothers, we were all nationally ranked wrestlers in the country. My brother Jeff and I, we own a business, Wrestling Mindset. We eventually expanded into other sports, academics. We work with businesses now on the mindset. So confidence, relaxing under pressure. You know, basically like what we've seen with Simone Biles at the Olympics, where, you know, difficulty, it's peak performance and mental health. It's all kind of rolled in there. And now since COVID, obviously things have gotten a lot worse with that. I mean, the numbers are really bad as far as depression, anxiety, as if they weren't already bad before. So we help out. I've been doing this for the past probably 15 years. Jeff and I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I studied psychology there. My brother Greg, he was ranked actually as high as top 10 in the country, and for him, he became a priest, and that really led to the conversion of our entire family. And just like the biblical theme, if you know in the Bible, usually it's the younger brother, almost every time. It's the youngest sibling who brings back the older ones. So we grew up Catholic. We're very blessed to have a grandparent. Our grandfather went to church every day, and he had a lot of Catholic books. I wondered why he had so many books. Why do you need that many books, Grandpa? And meanwhile, my library is like 3 times that size. Partially because I've acquired a lot of his books now that were passed on to me. But you just never know the impact that you're going to have on someone. And I can tell you, my brother Greg, who became a priest, that one of the key moments that he remembers in his childhood was walking past my grandpa's bedroom, seeing him on his knees praying. And that left a mark in his head. And both of my parents were religious. They went to church. We went to church every now and then. We said grace before meals. I never heard my parents talk bad about the faith. They sometimes said good things about the faith, things like that, right? But it was really our grandpa. And I guess one of the key lessons, we could even start with that as a first lesson. You never know who's going to be the person in your family to have an impact on someone. And it could be you, right? For myself, my brother Jeff, it was our youngest brother. For my brother, it was my grandfather. So you never know. You have a big role. You never know how the Holy Spirit's going to use you. So just keep doing what you're doing, and not just keep doing what you're doing, take it to the next level. And that's what we tell our athletes, whether it's, I was a personal trainer before, whether it's your nutrition, your fitness, your mindset, your faith, it's take one step forward, right? Okay, I remember thinking with my grandfather, how does he go to Mass every day? I could never do that. Right? And at the time, maybe no, I couldn't do that. But eventually I got to that point, maybe 15, 20 years later. So it takes time, but right now just take one step forward wherever you're at. So a key thing with wrestling, and this is why we started working with businesses and academics. We work with the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, like I said, Northwestern Mutual, Mass Mutual. They want that wrestling mindset. What is it about wrestlers that, you know, a lot of times makes them very tough? It's a holistic sport. You have to be in a weight class, so it's discipline with eating. It's, you know, you have to be very strong, obviously. That's why they have weight classes. If you go against someone who's a lot bigger than you, they'll overpower you. Technique, obviously, is huge. Mindset. So it's so many different components. And with wrestling, you really need to keep focused. You need to be focused on what you're trying to accomplish. And you can't take your eyes off the prize, so to speak. And as you know, that lesson really relates to everything that we do. We can't take our eyes off of what we're trying to accomplish. And what not just what we're trying to accomplish, what needs to be done. That's the key. And that's why with different sports, we work with Jill's son. He's been doing really well with the program. He's been doing great. Maybe say a few words later. But I will. But again, it applies to any sport. So applying that wrestling mindset to anything. So we hear a lot about, you know, the crisis in the world, the crisis in the church. We hear a lot of that. You don't have to go far to see news that's very negative and down. And yes, it's important to be aware of the crisis in different areas, but we also need to focus on what is the solution. And unfortunately, we don't necessarily always talk enough about the solution. Step one, you need to know what the solution is, right? So when you look at that, from a wrestling mindset, when I'm personally looking out at the world and seeing what's going on, crisis in the world, crisis in the church, what do we do? Right? What is the solution? I'm always looking for that, and now we have to stay focused on it. So in wrestling, the analogy that we give, and this is the title of one of my books, the predator mindset. It's only an analogy. I took an animal behavior class at the University of Pennsylvania. I thought it was going to be easy. I learned about animals. I'm getting a D in that class. But thankfully, I might be one of the few people that's using some of that information right now, unless there was a veterinarian or something there, which there probably were. But in any event, we learned there's two different types of animals. There's predator and there's prey. And this is, by the way, this is going to be your analogy for what to focus on, okay? So the predator animals and the prey animals. How can you tell the difference between a predator and a prey just by looking at them? What do you think? What do you think?
The way they stand, maybe? Or
the way they stand?
Body language?
Body language, okay, we're getting close. What's that? Fast, size, no.
Their eyes.
Eyes.
Eye contact.
Yes, it's their eyes. So if you look at predator animals, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, right? You shout it out. Lions, tigers, and bears, and you look at their eyes. Where are they located? On the front of their head or on the side? Front. Why do they need to be on the front?
They're on the offense.
They're on the offense. They're focused on what's in front of them. They're not distracted. So we say, eyes on the front like to hunt. Let's hear it. Eyes on the front like to hunt. Yeah, you could tweet that out if anyone's on Twitter. You see the coach kind of coming out, right? You gotta say it now. Okay. So right, eyes on the front like to hunt. Now think about prey animals. Squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, deer. I don't know if we have any hunters in the room. In any event, where are their eyes located, front or side? Side. Right. Why?
Watching for predators.
Watching for predators, right? The predator wants to eat lunch, the prey doesn't want to be lunch, right? Well, they need to have lunch too, but they have to make sure they don't get eaten first, right? So just like we say eyes on the front like to hunt, we say eyes on the side like to hide. Let's hear it.
Eyes on the side like to hide.
Eyes on the side like to hide, eyes on the front like to hunt. Okay, great. So what does that have to do with what we're talking about here? That to me is the analogy, and this works for literally, we've done this with 7-year-olds, we do this with our Fortune 500 companies, we worked with the Olympic team in wrestling and many UFC fighters. Our lacrosse team just won the NCAA championships last year. Everyone relates to it. You've all heard it before. Focus on what you can control, forget about what you can't control. You've all heard that. But how do we get that to stick? And this is the way you get that to stick. With your children, with yourself, to unclutter your thinking for peak performance, for mental health, and as far as knowing what we need to do to accomplish whatever the objective is. Eyes on the front like to hunt, eyes on the side like to hide. I once did this with a group of like 8-year-olds, and I said, eyes on the front like to hunt. I'm like, so what does that tell you? And he's like, oh man, I'm a predator. Like he noticed, because I said, because my next question was, I didn't set it up well this time, but what I should have said was, now, where are your eyes located? That's how I'm supposed to do it, right? Where are your eyes located? You'd say on the front. And one of the kids jumped out of his seat. He said, oh man, I'm a predator. And I'm like, yeah. I felt like Tony Robbins. I ran up. I gave him a high five. You know, if you ever watch him, he gives people high fives. So, yeah, I felt pretty good. But it's true. We're predators in the terms of like, in that regard, right? As a metaphor, right? Only figurative speech. Now we have to act like it. That's the key, and it keeps going back to having our eyes on the prize. So pretty much, when we look at the world, you have the great doctor of the church for, as far as the teachings we were just speaking about him, St. Thomas Aquinas. We're speaking about one of the smartest people ever, all time. And what did he do? He basically took the knowledge of faith, the light of faith, the teachings of St. Augustine, and he took the great works of Aristotle, as far as natural reason, logic. He took that and he basically said, how did these two go together? And that's why he's one of the smartest people that ever lived. And I mean, at the Council of Trent, during the Protestant Revolution, they had 2 books that were up in the front of the room at the council. The Bible and the Summa Theologica, St. Thomas Aquinas' book. So, I mean, many popes have said, and even back in the early 20th century, they said the solution to modernism, which was affecting the church then, now we're flooded with it. There's evidence of modernism everywhere. The answer is getting back to Thomism, the great teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas, who built logic and reasoning based on Aristotle. So Aristotle learned from Plato, and Plato said that the root of all evil, now he's speaking at a natural level, not at a supernatural level. At a natural level, the root and stem of all evil is ignorance. So what's the opposite of ignorance? Knowledge, education. So we know it at a natural level, according to one of the great minds of all time, is one of these solutions. We can't take our eyes off of that. And actually, the supernatural solution and the natural solution goes hand in hand. Because the reason why this country is in the situation we're in, and the reason why the church is in this situation, is because slowly but surely, bad philosophy crept in. And in fact, I was just telling our table right here that when I was going through my college books the other day, just to see, what was I learning? We were basically indoctrinated to think like Freemasons and Marxists. I mean, 50 pages in, it was blatant Karl Marx right there. So if you wonder why a lot of young people are saying, hey, socialism, this is a good idea, these kind of things, it's because this is what we were taught in college. And remember it, the University of Pennsylvania, this is the #3 undergraduate psychology program in the country. They founded cognitive behavioral therapy. The first, and that's what we're getting, unfortunately. So a lot of times it's an indoctrination. So the key is we need to be educated. We need to be educated. And going back to those classics, like we were speaking about, those 7 liberal arts, the trivium, the quadrivium. This is how people learned before Protestant Revolution and things started to change. Once the mind started unhooking from reality. Once the mind unhooks from reality, and that's what St. Thomas Aquinas did. Your mind was conformed to reality. Once they split that with Descartes, with Kant, with Protestantism, you can do whatever you want with the person. And sadly, give it time, because these people, if nothing else, they're patient. Now you see a lot of times, even in Catholic schools, they're being taught a different Catholic faith than their great-grandparents are being taught. That should never be the case, because God doesn't change. The truth doesn't change. The same education that's right now in terms of what they're learning about the faith should be the same as their great-grandparents, and the future great-grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. So education, that's the key. So my first thing, as far as at a natural level, we need to really push for that classical education. We need to get a school in Bergen. Selfishly, I got 3 young kids coming. We got to figure out a way to make that happen. But the mind needs to reconnect with reality. And that's what St. Thomas Aquinas did. That was one of his great gifts to the church, bringing together theology and that natural reason from Aristotle. So that's at that level. Now at the supernatural level, when I came here last time, the last event in October that I was at, Peter Howard was here, the head of the Fulton Sheen Institute, did a great job. He spoke about Our Lady of Fatima. And I was like, man, that's great. And it was a week before the first Saturdays too. So we got to say, hey, get to Mass for those first Saturdays. But if you look in the Bible's like bookends from Genesis to Revelation. It begins with the mother of God and the devil. It ends with the mother of God and the devil. In the beginning in Genesis, it's the woman and the devil. I will put enmity between your seed and her seed. So in the very beginning, there was that confrontation between mother of God and the devil. And in Revelation chapter 12, I saw a woman with the crown on her head coming in in the sun. There it is, the woman, and she was fighting against the dragon. It was the woman and the devil. And in Fatima, it happened again, 1917. It was the largest public miracle probably since, I don't know how many Israelites came out of Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea. You see Moses. I was watching that with my son the other day. Let my people go. We were watching clips on YouTube. I must have made a mistake doing that, because last night, I wasn't even planning going into this, but my wife's like, she's like, Pharaoh's a bad guy. Moses came and he turned the water to blood. And this kid's almost 3 years old. I'm like, okay. Fanatical father, right? Okay, so maybe we'll put Moses and all that on hold. But nonetheless, that was a large public miracle where in front of a lot of the Egyptians and the Israelites coming out of Israel, because this stuff happened. It's not like this was just, it's just a metaphor. And we hear that a lot now in Catholic schools. This is a metaphor. This is just a story. Like, this never happened exactly like this. No. The Bible is historical. Okay, this is the truth. Because what they do in communist countries, they teach you evolutionism, they teach you Marxism and all this stuff. In any event, 70,000 people saw the sun dance in the sky. And the Blessed Mother said this was going to happen. She spoke to 3 shepherd children, and they were all young, and said, keep coming here on the 13th day, and on the 13th day of October, 6 months in a row, and on the 6th month, basically there would be this miracle of the sun. And the Blessed Mother did this just as it came through as she promised. And during that whole time, she spoke to the children and gave messages to the world and said, in the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. And said, pray the rosary every day. You know, she appeared as Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which is connected to the brown scapular. So even though she didn't say it, you would have to say the brown scapular is laced in with the message of Fatima. She said that on the first Friday of the month, go to receive communion, go to confession, pray the rosary, and then take 15 minutes of meditation. She said, pray for the Pope. And the Pope needs our help. We can be very critical of the Pope, and rightfully so, but he needs our help. We need to pray for him. He is still our Father, our Holy Father. So we pray for him. We need to spread the devotion to Our Lady of Fatima. We have to stop offending God. Our Lady said that more people would go to hell because of sins of the flesh than any other sin. And when you look around, you see how the world is. It's tough. It's a real battle out there. So we need to guard our hearts. We need to guard our minds. Men need to protect women. Women need to protect men. The beautiful year of St. Joseph that we just had. A lot of people don't realize, but at the last apparition of Fatima, St. Joseph appeared with Mary and Jesus to the children and to the people. So St. Joseph is part of that. The angel that appeared to them leading up to that was very likely St. Michael. So the St. Michael's prayer becomes part of Fatima. And then the big crescendo was that the Blessed Mother told the children that I will come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart. And once Russia is consecrated by the Pope and all the bishops in union with him, and once this happens, there will be the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, and the world will experience unprecedented peace. In 1929, so this is 12 years later, I'm not a mathematician, but a few years later, the Blessed Mother came and appeared to Sister Lucia, the oldest, and said, now I'm asking you for the consecration of Russia. I want the devotion to my Immaculate Heart right there with the devotion of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I want those two hearts together. They're inextricably linked. Okay? And she said, I want you now to ask the Pope to consecrate Russia. And Jesus said to, our Lord said to Sister Lucia, that if this doesn't happen, then the world would suffer the same fate that France had back in the 18th century. So you know about the French Revolution, which in school you're taught that's such a great thing. It wasn't. There was a massive genocide of Catholics, the Vendée, and most people don't know about that. But anyway, so what happened was with the Sacred Heart devotion, our Lord appeared to St. Margaret Mary. We know the first Fridays, we go to Mass on the first Fridays for 9 consecutive months. Well, our Lord said to St. Margaret Mary, ask the Pope to consecrate France to my Sacred Heart. And if that doesn't happen, France is going to suffer a bad fate. 100 years to the day, 100 years to the day, the Pope still had not consecrated France to the Sacred Heart, and there was problems. Now we see the same thing at Fatima, where Cardinal Burke actually had a great quote at the 100 years of the Fatima anniversary, and he said that Pope John Paul II consecrated the world to Russia, but now at this point, the Pope needs to explicitly consecrate Russia, or she would keep spreading her errors. So basically, this becomes the answer. Now, here's the thing that I learned in this past year that really ties it all together, because, okay, the Pope needs to consecrate Russia. What does that have to do with me? Upon doing further reading, I found that if not enough Catholics live the Fatima message, the Pope is not going to get the grace to do it. So what does that mean? It's on us. We need to merit that grace for the Pope. So we need to go to those first Fridays, or the first Saturdays, do the first Fridays too. We need to pray the rosary every day, wear the brown scapular, stop offending God, live a chaste life, and so on and so forth. That's on us. Because you see, things get so bad, you're like, how are things going to ever get better? Right, we just spoke about that at the table. How are things ever going to go back? How are things ever going to get better? We need a miracle. Yeah, we need a miracle. And the Blessed Mother said that's what needs to happen. In order for the triumph of the Immaculate Heart to occur, we need to live the Fatima message. So basically, that's where we're at. We have two solutions. We have two solutions that are still on the table. At a natural level, we need to return to a classical education. We need to get our children's minds realigned with reality. That's what happened. That's what Descartes did. That's what Hume did. That's what Kant did. And these people were all propped up at the universities that you send your kids to. They said, these people are good. And St. Thomas Aquinas and Aristotle, yeah, they're like old philosopher guys. No. They hooked the mind onto reality. So we need to get back to that classical education. And at the supernatural level, we need to live the Fatima devotion. And we need to get as many people living the Fatima devotion as possible. Like I said, the first Saturdays, the brown scapular, consecrate yourself to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That changed my life. That was literally the thing that did it back in 2015. My brother, who was becoming a priest, he handed me a book, 33 Days to Morning Glory, Father Michael Gately, and I learned about the St. Louis de Montfort 33-day consecration. So do both. Do both. I was going through both, and I could say it's at that point in time, that's when my life changed. It was learning about the truth of the faith, and it was the consecration. And once the Blessed Mother has her hold on you, forget it. I mean, they got to lock you up for about a week and a half. You feel like you could paint the house twice, right? But you have that deep devotion and that fire, and we can't lose that fire. And I keep going back to that with that wrestling mindset. We have to keep our eyes on the prize. So, yes, we all have individual battles to fight, our family, different than our society, our personal jobs, but we can't lose sight of the big picture. Education has to improve from the ground up, because that's how they took us down. They took the Catholic Church down by getting into the educational system, by infiltrating the classroom. So we need to reverse that process. You think it was bad? Well, if we were Catholics in the year 200, our lives would all be on the line. We'd be underground, and if they found out you were Catholic, they would say, just give one little pinch of incense to these gods, and you'll live. If not, we're going to throw you to the lions and do all kinds of horrible things. If you ever read the Roman Martyrology, if you think you're having a bad day, read the Roman Martyrology. This is what these people went through. But they were warriors. They will put their lives on the line for the faith. They'll die for the truth. And that's an important concept, the truth. And how do you get that? You have to be aligned with reality. Nowadays in school, it's your truth is your truth. And my truth is my truth. That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And it's funny because a lot of times these philosophy teachers who say that, they're like, well, there's no such thing as truth, and we can't know anything for sure. They don't live their life like that. How could you parent that like that? How could you walk through the door and say, oh yeah, everything's going to be, if I'm not sure that that's a door, I might get hit in the face, the ceiling might fall down, anything could happen, right? So we need to rehook the mind back onto reality. So natural level is education, supernatural level is Fatima. And it doesn't mean to drop any of your other devotions. I love Divine Mercy, I love the Holy Face devotion, do it all. You have your novenas, you say, certain prayers, do it all. But don't lose sight of Fatima, because once enough people do that, that will bring in the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. Not because I'm saying it, because who am I? Because the Blessed Mother promised it, that there will be a triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary and a period of peace. And we need that. And no one else could do that without a divine intervention. Again, in the Bible, Genesis is Our Lady and the serpent. Exodus, Revelation, it's Our Lady, the woman clothed with the sun, and the dragon. And Our Lady of Fatima, it's the same thing. That she's going to crush the devil with her immaculate foot. But she does it with us, through us. So we need to be devoted to Mary, and we just be that spark in our lives. Be the change. Who cares what it looks like to other people? Do you look a little bit wacky? Yeah. Do you look a little bit, you're a little odd, a little too this, a little too that? Probably, but that's okay, because we don't care what other people think. That's the road for choking in a big competition. We talk about, and go bring it back to sports. If I'm thinking about how I look in front of other people, I don't want to let my dad down. This athlete, this wrestler is really big. They have a really good move. If I'm thinking about all that stuff, I'm more likely to lose in the match. In fact, one of our wrestlers for the Olympics, he said he was more physically prepared for the Olympics in 2016 than anyone in his life. But when he stepped out there, he kept telling himself, watch his headlock, watch his headlock. All he was thinking about was his opponent's move. Is that predator or prey mindset? Prey. Now that's peak performance. That stinks. So he lost his first match in the Olympics, and that was it for him, his whole life dream there for wrestling. Okay, that's a sport. Now let's look at that from life. Again, being trained as a school psychologist, That's a big deal. You want to talk about depression, anxiety. If you're always comparing yourself to other people, which is way easier to do now than ever before because of social media. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. If you're comparing yourself to other people, if you're always trying to fit in with everyone else, that's a road to depression and anxiety. And to choke in a big competition. And if you were going to give a best man or maid of honor speech, and all you're thinking about is, hey, what do these people think about me? You'll never get off the ground. You have to give, and anyone who's married as a presenter, you know, you can't be thinking about what's everyone thinking about me the whole time. Sure, part of us thinks that, but you have to just speak. Do the best you can. Same thing if your kids are taking the SATs or ACTs, job interview, saying no to drugs or peer pressure, standing up for your faith. Focus on what you can control. Eyes on the prize, eyes on the front like to hunt. And we just can't take our mind off. We can't take that focus off of what is the solution. The Blessed Mother gave us an answer. That's the answer. Why are we going to reinvent the wheel? Same thing with the church. The church says, if you want to know how to think, you follow St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas learned logic and reasoning from Aristotle. Why reinvent the wheel? Right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Study the best people in the world. My coach always told me that. Study the best people in the world. So I don't study the American wrestlers. I study the Russians. The best wrestlers in the world. You just apply that concept right across the board. If you're trying to build a business, you find who are the successful business people. Copy them. Right? Why reinvent the wheel? So, big thing is Fatima. If nothing else, live the Fatima devotion because we need a miracle, and she said she'll get us out of it. Otherwise, the world is going to have a very bad fate, like France did with the French Revolution, which was the slaughter and genocide of many people, which is an untold story. They never talk about that genocide, right? So there's a lot of Catholics that were killed. I guess we might as well pour a note to end that on, actually. Right? Eyes on the front like to hunt, eyes on the side like to hide. There is hope. Our Lady says, in the end, her Immaculate Heart will triumph. As Catholics, we know that victory is guaranteed. Don't we want it a little sooner? That's a better way to end it. I'll take questions now. Thank you. I have books. These are giveaways. This is our Building the Predator Mindset, great for yourself or your kids. And then Spiritual Strength, building the Total Athletes for Christ. So, interesting thing about this one. So I work with 3 of Cardinal Burke's great nephews are in our Mindset program. They've been part of the program for like 5 to 7 years. So we got to get a nice endorsement from Cardinal Burke on there. So that's how we know Cardinal Burke there. But yeah, no, it's great stuff. Again, it's just applying the lesson all throughout. I mean, St. Paul said, right, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, right? It's a real fight. And the battle is the world, the flesh, and the devil. And thanks be to God, the victory is guaranteed. But let's get that victory sooner. You could do it. It could be us that changes it. So yeah, questions about anything. Could be about peak performance, could be about anything, whatever. Yes.
Well, this isn't really a question,
Right.
but when I met you and your brother, when I was here a few months ago, I just want to say my son was like in he's 15, a bad place for a 15-year-old, right? Not doing great in the sport, just not feeling confident, and you were like, oh, we'll give him some lessons and you try it. It's been amazing for him, and so hearing you talk, I'm thinking like I have to get one of those books. I've been kind of dismissing it as, not dismissing it, but because we're very thankful, but like it's good for him, but like you said, like how can it be good for me, like in my life, in my Catholic faith, in my business, like how can I be more predator?
Right.
For him, it's been amazing. So I just wanted to say, like,
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And exactly, since once COVID happened, I mean, we hit a major difficulty with the business. All athletic programs athletic departments were on a spending freeze. So we said, what do we do? And that's when we started working more with businesses. I mean, it's the same thing, no difference, very little difference. The kids are afraid of losing. The sales team, they want to make that sale. They want to hit their goals. And they have money on the line, right? So it's even more competitive. You think people are competitive in sports, business is a lot more competitive. So yeah, no, it's important. Anyone works, and I can actually say I'm gonna give a shout out to my mom and to my dad actually here. I have to say that I'm very blessed to have my Catholic faith and I'd say predator parents in the sense that when it was never, oh hey mom, hey dad, my friends are allowed to do this. Why can't I do it? Everyone else is doing it. It was, that's not how we do it in this house. You're my son, and this is how you do it. And then, of course, as you get older, it wasn't like that in college. Obviously, kids get more room. But the point is, at a young age, it was never parent by consensus. It was never, all my friends get to do this. They say, you're my son, this is how we do it here, and that's it. And my parents drilled into very serious, hey, there's a right, there's a wrong. And if you do wrong, you're going to get punished. And you stick to that punishment. So, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. So be that person. Pass on that predator mindset versus prey mindset. It's funny that once you look at the world through that lens, focusing on what you control, not focusing on what you can't control, predator versus prey, it really clears up a lot of your thinking. I mean, if you're, and I'll say this, and this is a big statement here, anytime you're feeling disproportionately angry, sad, or mad, I guarantee there's a lurking prey mindset in there. I can find it. If we talk, if I'm speaking with you, and I keep pressing you, if you're, again, because everyone gets mad, sad, and angry, right? That's normal, right? But, or mad, sad, or whatever, anxious, that's normal. But if it's disproportionate, there's usually a prey mindset. We're comparing ourselves to other people. We're focusing on something we can't control. The world's changed since COVID. Okay, great. What can you do about it? What can you do about it right now? So that's it. It really helps your thought process. Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So, I mean, young people today it seems like there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. As parents, how can you coach us to talk to our young kids, and what's a 3-point list that we can kind of go down to help our kids regarding those kinds of points and issues? Okay,
well, the predator-prey mindset helps. Just being able to see the world through that. So a lot of times we inadvertently compare our kids to maybe the siblings or other people, where it's like focus on yourself and take one step forward wherever you're at. That'd be one thing, like just being able to see that. And it starts with us too, because we tell wrestling coaches, really sports coaches and managers in business, if you're speaking with the prey mindset, your team is going to catch that, right? So if you're constantly talking about, if you're a sales manager and you keep talking about hitting the numbers, what do you think your team's going to think about? Hitting the numbers. And instead, what I'm thinking of, if there's any number we should be thinking about is, am I making enough calls? Am I following up enough? Am I following my action plan? Factors within my control. So that's a difficult thing. And knowing that we're not comparing ourselves to other people. So that's one thing that's going to help. Keeping a focus on virtue is big. I think we don't talk enough about virtue. And I like to think our mindset program is geared towards helping people using sports as a vehicle to build virtue. We're going back to Aristotle again. There's nothing new under the sun. It says it in the Bible, right? Where these things have been around for a long time. The virtues, if you strive to be virtuous, you'll be good, you'll be successful. You'll do well at anything that you do if you're virtuous. If you just aim to be successful, you might be a successful wrestler, a successful business person, but you won't translate that lesson to life. Doesn't make you a good parent. Doesn't make you a good spouse. Does that make you successful in whatever you're looking to do? So if your aim is virtue, which is the golden mean, right? You could sin by excess, by doing too much of it. You could sin by defect, by doing too little of it. It's in the middle. We're not talking about love. Obviously, love is no limit, right? But for most of all the other virtues, it's having that golden mean. So keep aiming at virtue. That's a big thing too. So that's, and then as far as ourselves, I think if our kids see, and the future, if people see that we're trying to take one step further wherever we're at, we're not perfect. I don't have all the answers. I failed a lot of things. I was thinking like, man, I'm not going to have bread tonight. I'm not going to have bread. They brought out the bread. That was delicious. Right? And then I'm walking away and I'm like, I'm the mindset guy. I should have been able to fight that. Right? Okay. Had the bread. Okay, well, what do I do moving forward? Right? Am I going to win the battle during dessert? Right?
We're waiting for you.
Right? And it's probably delicious. So the point is, wherever you're at, I think people see that, hey, look, I'm human. I make mistakes, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be a better father. I'm trying to be a better husband. I'm trying to be better in my faith. You're trying. I think that the leading by example is a big thing. So I don't know if those are the top three, but living by example, like a focus on virtue. And what was the other one? Seeing the world, starting to see things through that lens, predator versus prey mindset. That really helps. And you know, predator animals, if you'll indulge me another analogy with the predator-prey mindset, lions are the king of the jungle. What do you think their success rate is? What do you think the kill ratio is for a lion? Like, what percentage of the time that a lion goes after his prey, he kills him?
10%.
At 25%. It's very low. If you have your 250 hitter in the major leagues, you're pretty good. 300, you're a Hall of Famer. The point is there's a lot of failures, right? So, but what are you going to focus on? Same thing with sales. A lot of the sales teams we work with, you fail most of the time. If you close 1 in 10, 2 in 10, you're a pretty good salesperson, right? So how do you keep that focus? Well, again, virtue, take one step forward, focus on the factors within your control. Start looking at things like that. And it's very important that when you hear things on TV, you got to monitor yourselves, and tell your kids also, you need to monitor yourself for your social media accounts. Like, you might need to create a different profile. You need to hide certain people, because if you're filling your mind with garbage, obviously garbage in, garbage out. So really watch that. And if you see crap on TV or read it in the newspaper, in your head you have to say, that's garbage, that's not true. Because if you keep reading it and you don't correct it internally, you don't have to always say something out loud, right? Nobody likes that person either. But in your head, you need to correct it and say, that's not true. Otherwise, you're going to get, it's enticing, it's seductive. So you don't want to go down that road. Same thing, when you catch someone saying a prey mindset, in your head you should say, that's prey mindset, right? In fact, we encourage fraternal correction with our businesses and our teams. This is part of the church, fraternal correction. Iron sharpens iron, right? Everyone says that when you say like a punchline, a catchphrase, iron sharpens iron, but then we get corrected and we're like, hey, what's your problem, right? So we encourage the businesses and the teams, and in our family, my wife and I will say, oh, that's prey mindset, that's predator. You know, it's an easy way to communicate this with people, even young people. And when you see that, it really helps, because now you're focusing on what you can control. I forget why I brought that up, but yes.
I'm just curious how your brother brought you all back to the church.
He read the Diary of St. Faustina, and he had a girlfriend of 2.5 years, and after reading the diary, he said he wanted to be a priest. He started, and he was the best wrestler out of the three of us. He was ranked 6th in the country. When he was in the seminary, he did 3 years at Seton Hall, and then his last 3 years he did in Rome at the NAC, the Pontifical University. So it's funny, because at Rutgers, he wrestled at the NAC, and then he went to the NAC. So he went from the rack, to the NAC. While he was over there, he was taking a 45-minute train ride to Ostia, which is where the Italian Olympic Training Center team is, where they have their Olympians, and he was wrestling with the guy who just took a bronze medal in Tokyo. He helped him train for the Olympics, so he's still really good, and from time to time he'll go in and he'll wrestle with the Rutgers guys. But in any event, read the Diary of St. Faustina, and the big thing that pushed him over the top was the consecration to the Blessed Mother. Read the diary, did the 33-day consecration. And he did that in March. And he was telling me and my other brother, you need to do this consecration. We're like, yeah, you know, this is wrestling season, this is our busy time. We'll do it soon. But he encouraged us. And then when June came around, we did that consecration. And that's where things really took over. But that was it. Your question was about my brother, right?
Well, really how he led the rest of you.
Yeah. And that's what it was, encouraging us to do that. And he was also, while he was discerning priesthood, you just see he started going to Mass regularly. Quiet guy, opposite of me. Super humble. He's great. he's great. But my youngest brother, it's like he's my hero, right? My parents are my heroes, right? And Christ and the saints, right? So, Blessed Mother, St. Joseph. We have a few heroes. But nonetheless, Greg he's awesome. So, but just quietly living the faith on a regular basis. That's why sometimes some of you might have the gift to, I was thinking Gab, right? I guess myself, right? But some of you, that might not be your role. It's quietly doing things right on a regular basis. And I said, wow. And when my brother said he wants to be in the priesthood, I said, wow. Normally what I say to sports teams, I say, what percentage of your success is physical versus mental? And everyone says success is like 90% mental. And then I say, okay, well, how much time are you training physically versus mentally? And they say 95% physical training. I'm like, oh, you see the problem? You need us, right? Right? Well, I thought about it with the faith. My brother's giving his life to God. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the faith to me? I know the right answer is a 10. How well am I living it? Probably a 2. that's what hit me in the face. So I said, okay, well, he's doing it, I gotta start turning that corner. But I learned it basically from a quiet person, and he learned it from a quiet person, my grandfather. So everyone has a different role, right? You do your role. Take a step forward, whatever it is. So that was a big help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know, I'm reflecting on a lot of what you're saying. I find that these days, there's so few role models for our kids. And, you know, society, you know, encourages weakness in a way. I never heard of this thing called safe space when I was a kid, you know? I mean, failure is a good thing because it strengthens you to be better. So a lot of what you're saying, I completely agree with. And I think the reason society or our kids have struggle, I think, is because they got to toughen up. I mean, they just have to, and I do think sports can do that for any youth. And I think a lot of what you're saying has a lot of merit, you know.
Heroes, role models, that's a big thing, and that's why we have the saints. We've got to read their lives. Like I said, I wasn't giving a thought exercise. I was saying, really, if you're having a bad day, read the Roman Martyrology and see what those people went through. So yeah, we're hearing a lot. We might be discriminated against because of our Catholic faith. Those people had it bad. Those people were killed brutally. So heroes, got to study the heroes in the Bible, and also there's people out there getting in front of good groups. That's when I met Laura and your daughter at the Catholic Underground. Like, you start meeting good other Catholics, solid young Catholics, when you go to the right environment. So that might be another thing you could do as parents. Encourage your kids to go into these different groups. I met my wife on Catholic Match. Yeah. And where did it come from? From my mom. She recommended it. So she did the consecration to the Blessed Mother. And I said, and she said to me, she's like, this is as I got deeper in the faith, she said, you're going to have to start looking for girls in different places. You're probably not going to meet a girl at a bar or a gym now, right? Because your life has changed. You should go on a dating site. You should go on like a Catholic dating site. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't need that stuff and everything. Well, the resistance right away. So give the kid, if they give a little resistance, that's okay. Let them have that. Let them chew on what you just said. And I thought, I've done funnier things than this to get a girl. So I went on Catholic Match. And literally 3 months later, I met my wife. My wife, Gina, yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask, what's her name?
Gina. Yes, you guys could say a Gene and a Gina. And our first son is Gene, the middle one's Joseph, and the third one is Gianna. And then she comes from a family of all G's and J's, and so do I. So it's kind of funny. That just happened. And we were not trying this, but we actually got married on St. Eugene's Day. So God has a sense of humor.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gene, so much. So just a couple reminders. Our next event is next month